What is a gun transfer and why does there seem to be confusion around it? Stay tuned. Hello, everybody. I'm Jay, owner of Little Johnny's Firearms, a home based federal firearms license dealer. I was on a social media app soliciting my business of firearm sales and also offering to do incoming and outgoing transfers. And I was surprised by the amount of comments that I received by people not knowing exactly what a transfer was or when it applies. I am a federal firearms license dealer, also known as an FFL. When I explain what a transfer is, this applies to the state of Florida, as I know that some other states have different rules when it comes to doing transfers. A transfer is not something that is needed when you are a resident of another state and you have firearms and you move to the state of Florida with those firearms. The way the state of Florida looks at it is if you are legally allowed to possess those firearms in the state that you're moving from, then you can legally bring them with you in your vehicle to your new residence in Florida, and a transfer does not need to be done. You need to use caution, though, when traveling across different states with your firearms if you're moving to the state of Florida. Some states are not as friendly about firearms as others, such as New York, California, Maryland, New Jersey. However, there is a federal law that does protect you. That federal law basically states that if your firearms are securely cased, locked, stored somewhere like in the trunk of your vehicle with the ammunition separate from it, you can cross any state line if you're coming from a state that you're legally allowed to possess that firearm, going to another state where you're legally allowed to possess that firearm. When an FFL is talking about transfers, what are they referring to? Well, let's start off with an incoming transfer. In the state of Florida, if you buy a handgun from an FFL that is in another state, a private individual in another state, off a gun broker website, which is a site for auctioning off firearms, that handgun cannot be shipped directly to your residence. It has to be sent to an FFL in your residence, usually someone local to you, where you will go to get that firearm when it's delivered to them. When the FFL contacts you to tell you that that firearm is in, you'll meet with them. You'll fill out the ATF Form 4473. They'll run you through the FDLE database, which is the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And if everything is approved, they will transfer that firearm to you or hand it to you. And they usually do this for a nominal fee. What is an outgoing transfer? Well, it's basically the opposite of an incoming transfer. Let's say you have a handgun or a rifle that you sold to somebody in another state through a site such as Gunbroker. You can't ship that firearm directly to them. It has to be sent to an FFL in their state of residence for them to perform the transfer to them. There are no laws in Florida or on the federal level that says you as a non-FFL private person can't ship a handgun or rifle to an FFL in another state. However, UPS and FedEx will not accept a handgun or rifle from a non-FFL person to send to an FFL in another state. The United States Postal Service will not accept a handgun from anybody except an FFL to send to another FFL. A private person or a non-FFL holder can ship a rifle to an FFL in another state through the United States Postal Service. So since no shipping carrier such as UPS, FedEx, or the Postal Service will accept a handgun from anyone except a FFL, you're basically forced to use an FFL to do your outbound transfer when it comes to a handgun. If you, as a private individual, want to do a transfer of a rifle through the post office, my recommendation is that you reach out to the FFL in the other state and make sure that they will accept a inbound transfer from a private individual. Some will, but increasingly more and more will not. If they do accept it, they're going to want you to send a copy of your driver's license to them, usually through email. You will also ask them to send you a copy of their FFL license. When you receive that FFL license, you will want to go on the ATF's website, which is the FFL Easy Check. You'll enter in the numbers that show on that license, which will let you know if that license is still valid. It will also populate an address. You can only ship the rifle to that address on the FFL Easy Check. If anybody's trying to tell you to send it to a different address, do not send that firearm. It is actually against ATF regulations to send a rifle or handgun to any other address except what is printed on that FFL certificate. Now, what happens if you're a resident in the state of Florida and you're visiting another state? You walk into a local dealer, you see a firearm you like, can you buy it? The short answer is yes. However, there's two different ways that this goes depending on whether it's a handgun or if it's a rifle. If you're buying a handgun or a rifle, you would actually give payment to the dealer there for the firearm that you're purchasing. If it is a handgun, however, once you make that purchase, they are required by law to send it to the FFL in the state of residence that you live in for them to perform the transfer when you return back to the state. If it's a rifle, as long as the transfer is being done face to face, they can transfer it to you right then and there while they're in their shop, unless they have a state law that precludes them from doing so. What about private party sales? In the state of Florida, there is no requirement that you need to go through an FFL if you're selling a handgun or a rifle to a resident in the state of Florida. The only requirement when doing a private seller transfer is you cannot do so if you knowingly believe the person you're selling or transferring to is prohibited by federal or state law to possess a firearm. Make sure that when you're doing a private party sale or transfer, you get a bill of sale, especially if you're accepting a handgun from someone else. The last thing you want is to have the ATF or FBI or state police knocking on your door because the gun that you just purchased was used in a crime and you don't have proof that you purchased that firearm from another individual. I also recommend that the buyer and seller exchange their driver's license info. One, it makes sure that they are a resident of the state and not some other state. And also, it's proof of identity when you're actually doing the transfer or sale. If you meet the private person face to face and you don't feel comfortable doing the sale or transfer, I highly recommend that you do not do it. You can also go to most FFLs to do the transfer on your behalf to the private individual for a nominal fee. I hope this helps you in understanding what an FFL transfer is. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and have a great day.